This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I'm out of practice and I don't have my script, so this might be a little hard to enjoy. Anyway, I'm going to call to order the July 15th meeting of the Woodland Planning Commission. It is 7:01. The Planning Commission does all sorts of stuff, all of it very important, and we're going to do some of that tonight. Janice, would you mind calling roll?
It would be my pleasure to do so. Let me pull that thing up. Okay. Brian Matson is excused. Is that correct? Okay. Jason Lugo.
Present.
Thank you. Sam Nigro, also excused. Tel Jensen.
Here I am.
Thank you. And I'm getting some feedback from it sounds like there's two speakers picking you up and there's a slight delay, so just so you know.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how best to deal with that. Should I I wonder if I should I just go over and like sit next to your
I think it's just me with my speaker on.
Ray? Just wondering if we were using the same microphone, maybe.
Yeah, so we could do that if you want to come down and sit here. Or I can come up to you.
Let's try.
If you're speaking, I cannot hear you, either one of you.
Nope. Sorry, technical difficulties. Surprise, surprise.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see. I guess I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I think approval of the agenda would be the first thing.
Well, technically, you don't have a quorum.
We don't have a quorum, so we can't have an agenda. So let's just, I guess we'll move right into staff.
And we can't approve the minutes, so the staff reports is next thing.
All right, great. That's easy for me.
So why don't you work the agenda and I'll work we'll put the camera video. Melissa, you want to go ahead and do presentation?
Should I start and then we'll do the quarterly report after?
Yeah, go ahead and get started.
Okay. Just a moment. I'll screen share for everybody. I have a couple updates from the planning department, and then Travis will give our quarterly report. And let me screen share here. Okay, so we can see that in GoToMeeting, and you're broadcasting onto the screen at Council Chambers. Is that right, Travis?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. Okay, I'm going to give some planning updates. The first one is on the Open Government Trainings Act. This is the Senate Bill 5964, adopted in 2014. I wanted to give the update that open government is, by this bill, obligation of all public servants. So we all need to take this training if you haven't already. It covers public records and retention, and public meetings. All members of governing bodies need to take it. That includes our commissions. So that is required to take within 90 days of your appointment, and a refresher course every 4 years. So if it's been 4 years since you've done the training, we're asking that you take this now. I've emailed out some links, and also we do have some newer commissioners, so it will be time for you to take the training as well. This is where you'll find it. It is on the Attorney General's site. This is the web address here, also was emailed out. Alternatively, it's included in the short course, which is put on by the Washington State Department of Commerce. It's a short course in local planning. If you've not taken it, it's a really good course. Great overview for planning commissioners. I took it, I think, about a year and a half ago. Highly recommend. And if you do take the short course in local planning, open government training is one of the components. And either way you choose to take it, you will get a certificate, and we are asking that you email in the certificate. Okay, then update on open public meetings. During COVID-19, governor's orders have changed regarding public meetings, so I wanted to give you an update where we are right now. So what's changed recently is that in-person public meetings are now allowed as an option. So we are meeting now in council chambers, and we are free to do so by the state mandates. We're also allowed to invite the public now to meet in person. The rules right now are, if you're fully vaccinated, you do not need to wear a mask at a public meeting. But if you're not fully vaccinated, you do need to wear a mask when you come to a public meeting, and you will need to be physically distant. So the 6-foot rule that we've been following for a lot of the emergency. Then L&I does allow, even if you haven't been vaccinated, for you to take off your mask if you are the speaker. And that is if we have, like we have the podium now, or not the podium, the lectern, toward the front of the room, as long as we have that far away, more than 6 feet from anybody else that's attending the meeting, whoever, regardless of their vaccination status, has gone up to the lectern will be allowed by state mandate to take off their mask while they are speaking. A remote component to meetings is still mandatory, so we do need to offer a way for attendees to attend without coming in person during this time. And the state also requires that it not just be participating through video or internet. We must provide a call-in number. And fortunately, with the GoToMeeting program that we are subscribed to right now and using right now, that does also include a phone number. And if we take public comment at a meeting, we need to allow for a way for people participating remotely to also give comment. The website MRSC is a great source of information. They have taken all of the governor's proclamations and written them up into essays, translated everything to plain English. This is a great go-to source if you want to read firsthand about what is allowed right now for public meetings. But I wanted to have a bit of a discussion, offer a chance for you to give us some feedback about how you're feeling about in-person meetings and the virtual component. Wanted to make sure that you feel okay, or hear if you have feedback about having staff, planning commission, and the public attend in person. If you have any feedback on the distancing and mask rules, or ideas on how to enforce or how to communicate these rules and let people enforce them for themselves. And I'll let you know, the City Council is currently meeting in person, and that is their preferred meeting format. I wanted to also chat about and see if you're comfortable continuing offering GoToMeeting. And if you have ideas on how to improve the audio and video integration. So one thing that's been tricky participating from the GoTo side at City Council meetings is that you can only see the person facilitating the meeting, and you can't see all of City Council. And it's a little bit difficult to avoid the echo loop in the room. So we may need to set up the room to better facilitate a hybrid in-person virtual meeting. So just wanted to open it up, not necessarily a workshop, but kind of an informal conversation. I'd like feedback from the commission going forward on in-person meetings, virtual meetings, and also how to combine the two. So let me pause here for some comments and questions and discussion.
Yeah, I think, I think even after this, if it ever is, if this plague ends, I think having more ways for people to participate is good. So, even without the state mandate, I think that's a great plan. I think, yeah, maybe some more AV stuff in this room, maybe like one camera and one microphone that can work for the whole room. I have no idea, how difficult that is. It doesn't, it seems, I might, like, if I just think about it and I like look on the internet, it seems like it should cost about $100, but that's probably not actually the case. It doesn't seem like it should be too onerous to just, hook up a little camera, maybe about where the projector is, pointing at the council.
The camera corner of the room does a pretty good job of capturing everyone. It's not a close-up, but so you don't have to worry about your eye makeup smearing or something. But
yeah, when I've watched, so I watched city council meetings with, on that camera. And
yeah, and the planning commission meetings, typically you're able to see all of the commissioners and all of the staff. So
yeah, so that obviously works to some degree, and I don't know how difficult it would be to integrate that with the GoToMeeting stuff. Yeah, getting one central microphone that you can hear everybody, but not everybody shuffling there. Yeah, I don't know how difficult that is. As far as the distancing and masking stuff, that seems like a developing situation, right? Like Washington got to its 70% vaccination target, but seems like maybe things might get worse again. So I guess we just gotta wait and see. I think short of asking for vaccination cards, which I think I already lost mine, I'm not sure how we would do anything but trust people. You have any thoughts, Jason?
I totally agree. I like the benefit of having virtual meetings, as long as it's accessible to the public, and perhaps having that option of in person as well, like a hybrid model. Sure, that's ideal. Although in-person meetings, 100%, we're not out of the woods yet. So I agree that, still maintaining caution and social distancing and personal safety. And if it means spending a little extra money just to have that extra equipment to enhance the virtual component, even better. So, but yeah, I agree.
Do you mind giving us an idea of how things are happening at your work and how things are going there, how it differs? I won't make you say where you work, but if you feel like volunteering that, you're more than welcome to.
Sure. A little different in that we are open to the public. We still maintain social distancing rules. As far as public meetings, when it comes to Um, open public hearings, especially with the hearing examiner, that's still virtual. Um, but when it comes to, let's say, the planning commission, it's a little bit of both too. They meet in person, and again, keeping social distancing rules in effect. I believe maybe the hearing examiner will eventually go to a in-person type of format, but at this juncture, it's still virtual meetings with the hearing examiner, open public hearings, and then planning commission. I think they just had their first meeting where it was in person, but closed to members of the public. And so they're starting to open up 100% for those meetings. So it's almost like a gradual process, but full steam ahead.
I think that, the one tricky part about it is, even if the city, maybe makes a couple improvements here in this building, it's still, for people to participate, still kind of relies on their equipment, right, and their internet connection. And I think it hasn't been too bad, but I think we've had a couple experiences where that wasn't great and people couldn't really hear people very well. There was some lag and confusion. I think probably that's just something we'll have to accept as part of the new, post-plague era. But yeah, I think we've been, I would say it's not perfect yet, but we're getting practice with GoToMeeting. I don't know if there are other options that anybody's looked at, but this one seems to be, we seem to sort of be getting the hang of it to some degree.
So we are looking at budgeting for some tech improvements, but they wouldn't come up until next year. So we are exploring options. The problem, of course, is the room is a system that isn't necessarily compatible with the YouTube format that we were using, and the GoTo doesn't necessarily work well with our projector here. So the question is there another format like Facebook Live, or whether or not we can live stream with some other platform that might work is a good question that we'll look into. The other question is if we are meeting in person, whether or not we want to add to the agenda specific points to go out to check the GoToMeeting, see if anybody has input on a particular item. But we could strictly go to a passive listening only GoToMeeting format, except for the points on the agenda where we would turn on all the microphones or give people the option to give input. Other than that, they would strictly be in a listening only mode. So that way we could turn off all the microphones except for the one microphone that goes to the main online feed. So that way we're not worried about 3 computers here with 3 speakers and then the speakers in the roof and the feedback for 7 microphones and 4 speakers in the same room. That way it's only broadcasting here and they're only listening online. And then we flip the switch and we go listening only here and online microphones during those particular periods. That's the only thing I could think of that might help us manage that if we don't have a single integrated system that does both in the room and online.
Yeah, and I've been kind of trying to err on the side of letting people participate, even if they that weren't on at the where we typically have public testimony. I think after doing that for, it must have been at least a year by now. I think maybe we can move towards just the same thing we would do in person. Right? So these are the periods for citizen communication for items on agenda, and then like public testimony or communication for items that are on the agenda when they come up. Kind of treating it as though they were here in person. The difference being that instead of me having to gavel them down if they're talking, out of turn, we just won't hear them. And that seems like an all right compromise.
I wonder, would it be appropriate to have an initial citizen communication section and then perhaps another one at the end to wrap up and capture anybody who joined late? Or would that be inappropriate at that point?
That's a good question.
Well, I think that's the point. At this point, or up to this point, I've been thinking more about how do we adopt the technology to adopt how we run our meetings. It may be simpler for us to adopt our meetings to the technology challenges that we're faced with. And we might have 6 public comment portions of the agenda instead of 1 at the very beginning, right? And it may be easier to just take 5 minutes 6 times rather than 1 opportunity up front and then everybody else is in listening mode.
One option I've seen that City of Vancouver has used this, and MRSC also suggested that other local jurisdictions have used this idea of having people that wish to give public comment sign up ahead of time. We want to clearly promote this and keep it steady every month, but you could ask for them to email their comments by noon the day of the meeting or by 4 p.m. the day before, and that way you have a list of everyone that you'll call on to speak. And at the commissions I've seen do this, they'll call that list and then they'll still ask, is there anybody here that didn't sign up? And then they'll still have an opportunity to speak, but it can really, I think, help facilitate, especially when you have that virtual component, to know ahead of time who you're calling on. So if that sounds of interest, we could look into that. Although we haven't had a long list of people wanting to give comments, so it hasn't really been that much of an issue for us. And then Janice, to your point about could we have comment at the end, I think that could be up to us if we wish to change the way our agenda is laid out. I have seen some commissions that have comment at the beginning and then have comment at the end, because they had some citizens that came regularly who said that they wanted to comment on things that came up during that meeting. So they didn't necessarily come to the meeting with something to say, but after they heard the conversations throughout the meeting, they wanted to give comment at the end. And I think we could do that if we wanted to.
Yeah, that seems worth trying out.
Email comments ahead of time too. That might help people organize their thoughts better and make the meeting run more smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of analogous to how we have had sign-up cards here in person. To some degree. Yeah, I like both those ideas. And you're right, Melissa, that it hasn't been a problem yet. I think maybe we'll never be crowded. I think we should aspire to have enough people that want to speak that we have to put time limits on them. So even if that's not happening now, even if it's not going to happen in the foreseeable future, I think we should be thinking about that and maybe taking steps to promote that. What those are, I'm not certain yet, but yeah.
There's also the chat function, at which point we could treat that as like raising your hand. If you have something to say, the chair could decide when it's appropriate to bring up the chat comments or read them on the air. Because we do record this meeting, but I'm not sure the chat gets recorded. I'm not sure how that's handled.
I have noticed on my computer a bunch of saved chat files. from the meetings.
Oh,
And I never looked at them, but I just know, I don't know. I don't know if I could find them again, but I think they do exist.
I'm not a fan of the chat box.
Okay. You
I've
want to
seen
elaborate a little bit?
I've seen it where um, vicious comments have been levied. Um, um, it turns out to just be a free for all and a platform for people. So that's just my.
Yeah, that's a good point, and potential problem. Especially because there's nothing. People don't have to identify themselves on here. I don't know if there's a way to. Yeah, I don't think we could even require that to let people know. So you might be right, Jason. It hasn't been a problem so far. We've had a little bit of chat, at some other meetings, and yeah, yeah, sure. I'm sort of inclined to try it out. Maybe people are just more polite in the county at large.
The city of kindness.
I've seen it used both ways. I've seen another planning commission would use it just if you needed technical information or technical support or something like that. But the planner would write in there, this is not public comment or testimony, and explain how to sign up to give testimony. On the other hand, I saw a neighborhood meeting that was facilitated for a long-range planning project, and so it was like an engineering firm. But because it was more of a less formal neighborhood meeting, they encouraged chat in the chat box, and they would read aloud what people were saying to help the conversation go. And so I think in that less formal format, the chat box worked really well, but I would worry at a large public meeting about it potentially getting out of control with comments.
That's a good point. I've noticed some of the other online meeting software has a raise your hand function. It seems like this one does not. Yeah, I don't know. And is there a way for whoever's running, running the online meeting to just turn off chat?
Is it
good question? I don't know.
I don't think there's an option to do that, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen it. All these forums are slightly different, the GoTo, the WebEx.
Yeah.
So I think you're seeing it because I had it on my screen, but I'm not sure whether that's just me and the screen or everybody can see it. Yeah, so it's not something the presenter can turn on or turn off.
Who started the meeting? Whose box is running the meeting?
I opened it under the city's account, and I think Travis is logged onto the same one.
Okay. And you don't see any options to turn off chats?
I don't. It could be an option somewhere else in the website, though, if I dug a little deeper than what's available right now.
Okay. I mean, that seems like potentially something to see how it works, right? Like if it starts going sour, as Jason has experienced, then it sounds like we can't turn it off. I guess we could just ignore it.
Yeah, I don't see, unless it's maybe in the setup, when we set up the meeting, maybe it's an option that we can pick at that point.
I think that's possible. I'll try and look into it. Okay, I think this is really good feedback as we plan for August and the next few months. It looks like we'll need to keep the virtual component available, and we'll keep looking into improving the technology at council chambers to make this a little smoother. So thank you for your feedback. And if you think of anything else that we should know or want to chat about, please email it. Okay. All right, I'll go on to the next topic, if that's okay. I wanted to announce that we have one planning commission position open right now. We would very much appreciate your help recruiting. If you can think of anybody in town or any way to post this opportunity. And I'd like to ask your thoughts on if you have any ideas for recruiting planning commission, and also if you have some onboarding suggestions or keeping planning commissioners. Do you have any feedback for us right now on that? And you can also email as well.
That's a good question, because I mean, I think, both Jason and Brian are, kind of in the planning business, so
yeah,
ostensibly don't hate it. I'm a little bit of just a planning nerd, because that's my weird interest. I think Sam has a professional interest too. I guess the people to ask would be the people that have left, but I think the people that have left recently, were sort of singular. Maybe not. Like, I don't think it was anything about the planning commission, or definitely anything that staff did. No, I won't say it wasn't anything that staff did in some cases, but certainly nothing that staff did wrong. Yeah, I don't know. That's tricky, because my first reaction is to bombard them with all this information that I think is great and really important and exciting, but that might not be the right way to go. Well, almost certainly isn't. But yeah, that's something I'll think about for sure.
Well, in the last year and a half has been just a bad opportunity to get the word out and get people interested in what we're doing, because everybody seems like they are just more stressed out and bombarded as it is. So you would think they would be at home with nothing better to do than get involved with the community, but it almost seems like it's the opposite, because everybody is more isolated from the community than normal.
So there is. Sorry, go on, Jason.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking, communicating with the high school, in terms of maybe future planning commissioners, those interested in civics, government, architecture, history, just sort of making that connection and networking for future advocates for their municipality.
Yeah, for seniors, that's a really good idea. We had brought this up, well, I guess it's 2 years ago now, and the planning or the city council had some major concerns about youth getting involved with the planning commission, because they were worried about, high schoolers in the aisles at Safeway being harassed by property owners or neighbors who felt that, they were getting involved in something that affected them or affected their livelihood or their living where they lived. And they were concerned about that kind of harassment, whereas adults are better equipped to handle that harassment, whether you're the mayor or a council member at Safeway, as opposed to the young. But yes, we had advocated that, and the council was pretty clear that they didn't want that happening in the community. So
I think a lot of young folks have a much quicker wit. They would be just fine.
Yeah, and not just high schoolers themselves, but their parents and sort of making that connection with those that are really engaged in their in government in all its forms, sort of teaming up with their parents and sort of advertising it to maybe family members that live in the city, so that way just more involvement and more I guess connection to their local government. So
I mean, I could see, just doing some sort of kind of general civic outreach in schools, and other community groups as well. And you may all have noticed by now that I'm not the most eloquent public speaker, but I would be happy to participate in stuff like that. Going to schools, going to Grange or Chamber of Commerce or something. I don't know that I'm the best spokesperson for this stuff. But yeah, both recruiting members, but also just trying to get people interested in saying, hey, we want you to come to meetings and have your say, and maybe here are some examples of big decisions that were made that have a real effect on your life. A program like that obviously is going to take some effort and time to put together. It doesn't sound like staff has a whole lot of extra time for it, but I don't know.
But what still needs to be done. So we'll put that on the list and think about ways to try and find that engagement. So
maybe we need a mascot and a costume for a mascot. Maybe a river otter, maybe a beaver, maybe an anthropomorphic turnip.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, though. I think there's some ways we can engage youth more. Maybe it's just talking about how to come to a meeting and give public testimony. And then those seniors, they'll be 18, or they're going on to community college or whatever their next plans are. That could be a great time. Planning Commission.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up as a crowd to reach out to.
And there's got to be a civics or teacher that wants to would be interested in hearing somebody coming to a class.
Yeah, Melissa has. I put Melissa in touch with the Washington State APA, American Planning Association, Youth in Planning Task Force. Because there is a group that talks about trying to engage the youth. And so we've done some exercises going out to high schools, trying to get them involved in doing project review and talking about planning, thinking about planning. So there are ways to engage that. There is a group doing that. And Melissa might be a good person to think about how we can do that, especially here in the high school. There is that opportunity.
Great. Yeah, and if somebody who's a voter in town applies to be on the planning commission and they happen to be 18 or 19 years old, I don't know, if the council wants to vote that down, that's on them, but that doesn't seem like a great idea. I have a hard time keeping a full roster. I also think that that diversity is very important, and diversity of ideas is something you're going to get if you get young folks. You're going to get new ideas and ideas that they might be great because they haven't learned that they're wrong yet. I think that's important and really helpful. So if you're worried about them being harassed in the grocery store, I don't know. That seems like pretty flimsy footing to object to getting young folks involved. I think maybe you have an opportunity to lead on that and you know, set the public tone about what's acceptable. And I don't know. I've upset some people and nobody's ever had anything to say to me, say to my face. So, you know, they've written some nasty things about me, but I don't know. I think that's really not true.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good feedback. So, oh, sorry.
Oh yeah,
Go
no,
ahead.
I'm gonna keep thinking and think about groups to talk to and maybe chatting with folks around town, see if people have ideas. Yeah,
Perfect. Thank you.
know, we do have, you know, we're a bunch of, you know, we're not all the same age on the planning commission, but we're not that far apart, and we're all men, and we're all, you know, kind of the same. We look a lot alike, I guess. So we could use some new blood.
Good. Okay, last update I wanted to share with you. This is a project underway right now, but we're going to completely revamp and redesign our website. We're working with a firm right now to redesign it. This is a sneak preview of what it will likely look like. And this is a mock-up of our new front page. It will be more simplified and more visual than our current website. So that is the front page there, icons here for these high use needs. Make a payment, connect with us, forms and applications, announcements. Up top, these will be, I think they call them mega menus, will drop down. We'll have a lot of options on them. This is more modern website design. We'll have our events and meetings and city projects highlighted down at the bottom. And at inner page will look something like this, the classic menu bar on the left, the main text in the middle. I lost my screen sharing, I think.
I think you're at the end of your presentation.
Oh, got it. That's what I did. Sorry, that's the last thing I was going to show. So just to let you know, this is coming up, and I believe they're targeting 2022 for the website to go live, but we're working to have it up and running as quickly as possible. Our current website is on its last legs. Maybe you've experienced that browsing our current website. So we're very excited for this project and to have this go live as soon as possible. I think that wraps up what I wanted to share, and I'll let Travis do the quarterly report, but we thought it would be good so we have a little extra time this month to appreciate your feedback and just talk a little bit more about some of these planning projects that are going on and future of public meetings. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, twice.
You are, one sideways and one straight on. So the second quarterly report for community development came out. You will notice that there's a couple new sections this quarter, but typically we just give an update of the community development projects, whether it's planning, building, or code enforcement that we're currently kind of what's on our radar. So you'll see that the building program, we have some projects that are being occupied or temporary occupancy or final occupancy. So we're getting some stuff coming online. We're also getting some preliminary approvals. Our permitting is actually pretty busy for the year, so we may end up with a little more work than we did last year. And so those numbers are on here. We have Belmont RV, which is an approved application, but it is currently in the appeal process. So it may end up being approved but not going anywhere while it's in potential legal limbo if it goes to court. We have some pre-application conferences that are already, some of them like USNR is already moving into the site plan review process, but we're seeing a pickup in pre-application activity in the last couple of months, it seems like. So hopefully that will translate into some new applications and some interesting new developments around the city. On our radar is kind of the section we use to put word out there of stuff that looks like it's coming down the pipeline and stuff that's on our radar. We also have the 2 grant works. So the shoreline program is now officially updated and in effect. And then also the housing action plan. So we got a 1-year extension to do some additional work, but the code provisions that you had recommended approval for, the majority of those are moving forward, and the city council will be able to adopt those as soon as we can get the ordinance written and on their agenda. So we expect that to be in August, but it's kind of lagging behind what we had hoped to get done. But now that we've got a year's extension, there may be some stuff that comes back to the Planning Commission for some additional discussion. And that also will have to do with the city adopted a moratorium for residential or commercial projects that have a mixed use residential component. And the history on that has to do with Kirkland Senior Living and that project being denied. And then the Belmont RV, there's kind of some question by the neighbors as to whether an RV park with long-term stays should really be treated as a residential use, not a commercial use. And we had a pre-application conference that was based upon the same principle as Kirkland was denied for, and that is specifically that it's a token mixed use and that it is truly a residential use and not a commercial use. Therefore, it shouldn't be permitted in the commercial zone. So we have a moratorium, and I suspect that in August you will be asked to consider some issues with residential in the commercial zone. So stay tuned for that. The rest of the report is our permit count, so you can kind of take a look at where we are this year, what kind of applications we're getting. Our residential count this year is so far 4 single-family residential, which is actually good compared to last year because we only had 7 total residential units last year. And we actually had 10 units that were either demolished, removed, converted, or lost to fire. So we actually had a loss of 3 net residential units in 2020. And then 24, 27, 54, 53. So we're seeing a steady decline or loss in residential units. So with all of the issues we're experiencing with housing crunch and the housing emergency, we are not doing our part to help address some of those supply issues. So that's kind of an issue that we're wrestling with. Permit valuation is about what we expected. And this is maybe the section that many of you keep an eye on a little more closely, and that is the total approved projects. We keep track of, since 2008, how many of our projects have been approved and how many trips they represent will be on the road by the time they're completed. And you'll see that there is a residential, industrial, commercial component, and that the commercial component, a lot of those trips are on the road, and a lot of the residential trips are on the road, but virtually none of the industrial trips that have been approved are on the road. So if you're wanting to see what kind of trips we expect within the next, I don't know, 2 years, that's the section that you'll take a look at. And then we also added a new section this quarter. It will not be this big going forward, but this is kind of our first introduction, and that is The city clerk treasurer retired, and we've had a clerk treasurer leave the city, and also an additional clerk is on maternity leave. So some of those duties are being picked up and distributed to other managers and other departments. And so we are also functioning as the public records office. And so this is kind of a history and analysis of the public records that come in. And last year we had a total of 101 requests. And through June, we are already at 62. So I think this number might be up in the 70 range already. So we are having an extremely busy year for public records requests. So that kind of gives you an idea of the issues that we're dealing with. And then lastly, you'll see the list of public records requests that we've received to date. And finally, at the very end, you'll see our list of trip generations. And this is a simple Excel spreadsheet that shows you when the project was approved, has it been built yet, and are those trips on the road. So this is our quarterly report. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to contact Janice, Melissa, or myself, and we should be able to answer any of your questions that you have.
I have an announcement for today. Today I issued the building permits for Atlas Plumbing's new building out on 428 North Pekin. So that was a significant project, and I'm very pleased that it went as smoothly as it did.
Yep.
All right.
Anything else, Melissa? Anything else you want to bring up for current projects that you reviewed or making progress?
None to add right now. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's about exhausts our agenda. I don't know. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions, words of wisdom? Not at all.
It was short and
All right.
sweet.
It was that. Yeah, I haven't been able to say that for a while.
And thank you with the presentations. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Once again, as always, thanks to all the staff for putting in as much work as you do, and especially now when it sounds like everybody's got a lot more work to do. And yeah, thanks, Jason, for taking some time out of your Thursday. And I think
Yeah.
with that, we can adjourn.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Night.